Oh, hi there. Donald from Otaku no Podcast, here with the final video in the Sushi series. Before we start, though, you're probably wondering, gee, that Donald's room, it looks awfully like a cheesy hotel room. Well, that's because I'm not at home. I'm in a cheesy hotel room. Well, actually, it's a pretty nice hotel. It's the LAX Westin. I'm actually out of town right now, attending the Southern California Linux Expo, or SCALE. I mentioned earlier that February would be a very busy month for me, what with planning our move and all, and as well as this conference that I always attend. So that's also why the video is kind of at a weird angle, because I don't have my tripod with me. I'm actually have the camera propped up on a couple of 12-pack Coke containers. And that's also why this sound is really crappy. It's because I don't have my microphone with me. But the actual video that I shot earlier back when I was at home, so that video at least has the better sound with my microphone and has the tripod on it. So this is, as I mentioned before, our final video in the Sushi series. Hope you enjoyed it. The fact that I haven't received any dead spiders in the mail or death threats or anything like that, maybe that means that you actually are enjoying it, or at least you're willing to tolerate it. In today's episode, we're going to talk about, we're finally going to face the fish. It's time to finally face the fish, but it's not as difficult as you might think. While we're along the way, we're going to learn a little bit of knife etiquette, care and maintenance of your knives, and finally, as far as sushi is concerned, we're going to learn the Temaki, or tuna roll, as well as Nigiri sushi, or hand-pressed sushi. And finally, we're going to learn probably the easiest sushi to make of all, Chirashi sushi. Very hard to pronounce, but easy to make. Anyways, let's get on to the video. Greetings, and welcome once again to the Otaku no Podcast Test Kitchens. Today, this is our final installment in the sushi video series. I'm sorry, but, well, that's the way it has to be. And today is finally the time has come at last to conquer your inner demons, to face your fears, to face the fish. But don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Don't panic. I'm here to show you how, and it's really not that difficult. Today, we're going to make a couple different kinds of sushi. We're going to make another type of rolled sushi, the Temaki roll, or tuna roll. We're going to make Nigiri sushi, or pressed sushi, of various types. And finally, we're going to make the Temaki roll, or hand roll. Let's see what ingredients we'll be using today. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with most of these by now. We have, of course, our sushi rice. Again, sushi rice or long grain, or short grain rice. Either one, if it says that on the package, you're probably good to go. Medium grain rice sort of works. The consistency is not quite there, but if that's all you got, well, that's all you got. Sushi rice vinegar, again, seasoned rice vinegar. Make sure it has seasoning. It says seasoned rice vinegar. You can make the stuff yourself. I think it's like 7 parts vinegar to 2 parts sugar to 1 part salt. And if I got that wrong, I'll insert the correct formula in a lower third here. Anyways, you can mix it yourself, but why bother? Just get the seasoned stuff. You will also want, of course, nori, our pressed algae sheet thingies. Some people like sesame seeds on their rolls. Completely optional, your choice. And you'll want wasabi, or Japanese horseradish. Again, comes in 2 forms. Tube form, which you squeeze out like toothpaste, and again, once you're done using it, once you've opened it, you have to refrigerate it. And the powder form, which you have to mix with water. Get the tube form, it's easier, trust me. Now, at long last, we face the fish. You can get, the best way to do it is go to a Japanese or Asian market, they usually have what's sashimi grade fish frozen for your convenience. It's available in little pre-cut slices such as this. This is, I don't know what this is. This here is tilapia, and this is shrimp. Those are really convenient because then you don't have to cut them up yourself. But you can also get this, which is eel or unagi, which is great in both rolls and nigiri, pressed sushi. This is actually cooked. You just have to kind of bake it for a little bit to warm it up. And it has a really cool sweet sauce. It's really tasty. And finally, you can get blocks of sashimi grade tuna or salmon or other kinds of fish. This is a little more difficult because you have to cut it yourself, but it's really not that bad, and I'll be showing you that later. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, I can just go down to the local grocery store and go to the fish section and get fresh fish and cut it up yourself. Please don't. First of all, it's really hard to, have you ever tried filleting a fish and deboning it and stuff? It's really hard. Also, even if the market says that it's quote-unquote sushi grade or sashimi grade, they don't always trust them. The words sushi grade and sashimi grade are really marketing terms, and they don't necessarily mean that the fish has been properly checked for, bacteria and contaminants and that sort of thing. Your best bet is to go with an Asian or Japanese market and go for the frozen stuff. And if you don't have an Asian or Japanese market nearby, you can order them. You can order it online. It comes to you packed in dry ice. It's really cool, and you get to play with the dry ice afterwards. So that's twice the fun. Anyways, that's it for ingredients. Let's see what equipment we'll need. Again, if you've been paying attention at all to any of my videos, most of the stuff is probably quite familiar to you. We have, of course, our rice cooker. And yes, you can get them pretty cheap, around 20 to 50 bucks for the kind of dumb generic ones, or you can go with the fuzzy logic cookers, for which are about $100, $150, some of them $200. Really, if you like your rice, get the fuzzy logic cookers. They make the best rice, trust me. If not, you can get one of the cheap no-name brands, but the cheap generic non-fancy rice cookers, but then your rice might be a little off. You can also, of course, cook rice in a pot on the stove, but that's really touchy. It's very hard to do, and just don't. Of course, we also know our friends, the bowl and the mixing bowl and the wire mesh strainer, and the oke, or Japanese wooden rice tub, and the wooden rice paddle, and a fan, or if you have a electric house fan, you can use that as well. And we'll need the small sushi rolling mat, which you will remember from the previous episode. Finally, you'll need a knife and a cutting board. And again, do not use glass cutting boards. Nothing will kill a knife faster than a glass cutting board. Use wood, bamboo, or plastic works well also. And what type of knife you'll need? You'll need the longest, thinnest blade that you've got. This is like a Western style slicing knife. This will work, but if you really want to roll with the big dogs, you're going to want a Japanese sashimi or sushi knife called a yanagi or a yanagi-ba. This is a long, single-edged blade that is specifically meant for cutting fish. And since it's a single-edged blade, they come in both right-hand and left-hand versions. So if you're a southpaw, you'll need to get a specifically left-handed version of a yanagi. You can get these pretty inexpensively. I think this generic stainless steel one I got at a Japanese market for, I think, about $20 or so. They work pretty good, nice and sharp, pretty good. But if you really want to do it right, you'll get a carbon steel yanagi. And this is when you really run with the big dogs. Carbon steel yanagis are extremely sharp. They can hold an edge like nobody's business. They're also a bit tricky to take care of, but once you get the hang of it, not that bad. Now, price-wise, I've seen them for as low as 40 or 50 bucks. You can get decent ones for that price, but in Japan, yanagi sushi knives I've seen that they've gone for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, even $1,000. But if you really wanted to go the carbon steel yanagi route, one of the $50 ones, $100 ones, those work pretty well. This one I think cost me about $150 on eBay. It's a really good knife. Check the show notes for this episode, and I'll be linking to some good deals on yanagi knives. Now, carbon steel is a bit trickier to take care of than regular knives because of the high carbon content. They tend to rust a lot easier, and so you have to like be careful when you're using it to make sure that the blade never stays wet for extended periods of time, and you have to sharpen them regularly. For that, you'll need what's called a Japanese water stone, and you'll probably be able to find these at the same place where you find your carbon steel knives. They're pretty expensive, about $20, $30. I think this one cost me 25 bucks. You'll also need mineral oil, and again, it has to be food-safe mineral oil, because when you're done with your knife, it's a good idea to lightly coat the blade with food-safe mineral oil before you store it. That way it prevents it from rusting, and it generally keeps it in good shape. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, I'm sure you know the routine in your sleep by now, but in case you don't, go back to our first episode, or basically measure out some rice, about 1 cup for if you're just you and maybe one other person, 2 to 3 cups if you have several friends over. Measure it out, pour it in your bowl, and wash it. Fill the bowl with water, and using a sweeping motion, kind of swish your hand through the rice and then press down gently. Repeat this motion for about 30 times. Then drain your rice, and then again fill the bowl with water. This time you don't want to do the pressing motion, just kind of gently swish your hands through the rice for maybe 30 seconds or a minute or so. And then finally drain your rice into your wire mesh strainer and let it drain at least for 1 hour, preferably several hours or overnight. But if you do it for longer than several hours, be sure and stick it in the fridge, and also periodically agitate the rice, kind of mix it up with your hands to prevent little damp spots from forming in the middle of it. Once your rice is done drying, pour it into the rice cooker along with an equal amount of water. So if you used 1 cup of rice, put in 1 cup of water. And then start your rice cooker. When it's done, wet your rice paddle, just moisten it with water, and use it to gently loosen the rice from the edge of the rice cooker bowl. Now take your oke and again moisten it with water, and then dump your rice out into your oke. Then measure out some sushi vinegar. Again, it's about 10 parts rice to 1 part vinegar. You can be precise about it, or you can eyeball it, and then just sort of gently sprinkle the rice vinegar evenly, as evenly as you can over the rice. Then, again, using your moistened rice paddle, using a cutting motion, kind of gently cut the rice up, break up the chunks, break up the large chunks, and then gently fold the rice in, mixing in all the vinegar mixture. While you're doing this, be sure and fan your rice a little, cool off quickly. Once it's reached about body temperature, it's ready to serve. Now it's time to deal with your fish. But before we do that,